Good morning. Or perhaps, given the news, it's more fitting to say, a quiet moment of reflection to you, wherever you are. Today we sit together, not just to mourn, but to understand. The recent, deeply private passing of Catherine O'Hara has sent a ripple through the hearts of millions. A quiet tremor that feels, to many of us, like the final turning of a page. It's more than just the loss of another brilliant light in the firmament of entertainment. No, this feels different. It feels like a bookend, a poignant, almost painful punctuation mark on an era, on a generation that shaped our laughter, our tears, and our very understanding of what it means to be human on screen. Catherine O'Hara, a name synonymous with genius, with characters so vivid they walked right off the screen and into our collective memory, has left us. But her departure, in its quiet dignity, has unexpectedly illuminated a pattern, a heartbreaking truth, connecting her to other legends who left us too soon. It's a secret, not of conspiracy, but of shared burdens, unspoken pressures, and the profound, often lonely cost of illuminating the world with their gifts. Today, we'll delve into that truth, starting with the incomparable Catherine O'Hara, and then tracing the threads to Matthew Perry, Bob Saget, Betty White, and Sean Connery. We'll look beyond the headlines, beyond the public smiles, to the quiet battles fought and the legacies left behind. Catherine O'Hara. The very name evokes a kaleidoscope of characters, each more indelible than the last. From the early days of SCTV, a comedic crucible that forged legends, to the iconic, scene-stealing matriarch of Schitt's Creek, Moira Rose, Catherine O'Hara was a force of nature. She possessed a chameleon-like ability to transform, to inhabit roles with such profound depth and hilarious eccentricity that she made it look effortless. We saw her as Delia Dietz in Beetlejuice, a woman of avant-garde pronouncements and architectural angst. We chuckled with her as the perpetually worried mother in Home Alone, her frantic search for her son a masterclass in comedic desperation. And then, of course, there was Moira Rose, a character so richly textured, so hilariously out of touch yet profoundly human, that she became a global phenomenon. For decades, Catherine O'Hara graced our screens, a consistent, comforting, and utterly brilliant presence. An artist who seemed to only deepen and refine her craft with each passing year. She was, in every sense, a comedic titan, a performer whose timing was impeccable, whose delivery was flawless, and whose heart, we always felt, was truly in her work. Her golden years were marked by a resurgence of adoration, a recognition that was perhaps long overdue for an artist of her caliber. She gave us characters who were survivors, who faced absurdity with an unshakable, albeit often bewildered, resolve. We loved her for it, we celebrated her for it, and we believed, perhaps, that she too was imbued with that same indefatigable spirit. But behind the dazzling array of characters, behind the perfectly coiffed wigs and the obscure vocabulary, there was a silent, profound weight that Catherine O'Hara carried. She was a cornerstone of the legendary Second City comedic cohort, a generation that changed comedy forever. And the heartbreaking truth is, she was one of its last survivors. Think about that for a second. Imagine the profound bonds formed in those early hungry days, the shared dreams, the explosive creativity, the laughter that echoed in those hallowed halls. And then, imagine the steady, devastating drumbeat of loss. John Candy, her frequent collaborator and dear friend, gone at a mere 43 years of age. John Belushi, a raw comedic genius taken too soon in a fatal battle with personal demons at 33. Chris Farley, another incandescent talent, extinguished at 33, also a victim of his own struggles. These weren't just colleagues. They were her creative brethren, her family. She didn't just know them. She shared a stage, a vision, a soul-deep understanding of comedy with them. She carried their torch, yes, but with that torch came the immense, cumulative weight of their absence, a generational darkness that, perhaps, never truly lifted. It's a profound existential exhaustion that few of us can truly comprehend, the burden of being the one still standing, still creating, while so many of your artistic compatriots have faded. In her final days, Catherine O'Hara, ever the private star, withdrew from the public eye. There was speculation, as there always is, but little was confirmed. Then the news broke, quiet and somber. The official cause was cited as complications from a sudden acute cardiac event. And while that may be the clinical truth, those closest to her spoke of something less tangible, something more profound, an existential exhaustion. It was, they said, the cumulative weight of a lifetime spent as a brilliant comedic light surrounded by an inescapable generational darkness. Her passing isn't a separate incident. It's the final, devastating bookend to the story of that golden but undeniably cursed generation of comedic giants. The secret is that she didn't just know them. She carried their torch, and with it, the weight of their absence for decades. The ultimate, crushing irony lies in her art. Catherine O'Hara's most iconic characters, particularly Moira Rose, were masterpieces of resilience. Absurd, self-possessed survivors who would persevere through any humiliation or disaster with a flourish. She was celebrated for portraying indefatigable women who simply refused to be broken by the world. The tragedy is that while she gave us these fictional portraits of endurance, she was, in reality, the last soldier standing on a battlefield of comedic giants, ultimately succumbing to the same shadow that claimed her friends. She made us believe in survival, all while being the final casualty of a war we never knew she was fighting. The world knew Matthew Perry as Chandler Bing, the quick-witted, sarcastic, and deeply endearing heart of Friends. For 10 seasons, he delivered lines with a timing so impeccable, so uniquely his own, that he became a beloved fixture in millions of homes around the globe. He was the friend you wanted to have, the one who could always make you laugh, even when life was at its most complicated. His rise was meteoric, a testament to his undeniable talent and charm. He embodied a certain kind of 90s cool, a relatable vulnerability wrapped in a package of comedic brilliance. He was a part of our weekly routine, a comfort, a familiar face in a rapidly changing world. Beyond Friends, he charmed us in films like Fools Rush In and The Whole Nine Yards, always bringing that signature blend of humor and heart. He was, for a time, at the very pinnacle of television stardom, an actor who had found his perfect role, and in doing so had found a permanent place in the cultural landscape. It was a golden era for him, filled with accolades, adoration, and the kind of success most actors only dream of achieving. But behind the laughter, behind the perfectly delivered punchlines, Matthew Perry was fighting a fierce, relentless battle for his well-being. His struggles with personal demons were, at times, heartbreakingly public. Yet the full scope of his private war remained largely unseen by those of us who simply tuned in to be entertained. The pressures of maintaining a global persona, of being Chandler for an adoring public, while simultaneously grappling with profound internal challenges, must have been immense. He spoke with candor later in his life about the isolation, the fear, and the sheer physical and emotional toll these battles took. He was, in essence, living a double life. One of an iconic, beloved comedic actor, and another of a man in constant, agonizing pursuit of peace and sobriety. The demands of Hollywood, the relentless scrutiny, the pressure to always be on. These were not merely external forces. They became intertwined with his deepest struggles, amplifying the fight he was so bravely trying to win. Matthew Perry's final days were marked by a renewed sense of hope, a determination to share his story and help others. He had recently published a memoir, a raw and honest account of his journey, and seemed to be embracing a new chapter focused on advocacy and healing. Then the news came, sudden, shocking, and utterly heartbreaking. The official report cited the acute effects of ketamine, with drowning, coronary artery disease, and the effects of buprenorphine as contributing factors in what was ruled an accident. It was a tragic end to a life that had seen so many ups and downs, so many attempts at a fresh start. For years, there was a piece of lost Hollywood lore, a forgotten pilot, but now it's the key. The heartbreaking connection isn't a hidden affair or a whispered confession. It's a project buried in the archives that brought our lost legends together one last time. In 2007, Matthew Perry co-wrote and starred in a dark comedy pilot for Showtime called The End of Steve. His co-star, the revered Catherine O'Hara, played his beleaguered network boss. This is the secret she held, not by choice, but by circumstance. The truth is, who else was there? The pilot also featured Jason Ritter, the son of the beloved and tragically lost John Ritter. Here in this single, unaired show is the nexus point. Catherine O'Hara, a contemporary who also worked closely with another lost comedic giant, John Candy, stood at the crossroads of these careers. Perry's desperate attempt at a second act, and the legacy of John Ritter carried on by his son. The secret is that Hollywood's tragic pattern of brilliance and pain was encapsulated in a single, forgotten project, with O'Hara as the unwitting witness. The ultimate, soul-crushing irony is in the title. Matthew Perry, in a bid to redefine himself after Friends, poured his own struggles and sardonic humor into creating a show he called The End of Steve. A story about a miserable, self-centered man whose career and life were imploding. The pilot was meant to be a fictional end, a comedic rock bottom from which a new character could rise. Instead, it became a chilling prophecy. The project that was supposed to be a new beginning for Matthew Perry now serves as the perfect, haunting title for the final chapter of his own story. I'm sure many of you remember gathering around the living room television to watch Friends, perhaps every Thursday night. It's hard to reconcile the laughter he gave us with the profound struggles he faced. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the unseen battles our heroes fight. For an entire generation, Bob Saget was America's dad. As Danny Tanner on Full House, he brought warmth, gentle wisdom, and a reassuring presence into our living rooms every week. He was the epitome of the wholesome, loving father figure, navigating the ups and downs of family life with a smile and an occasional moral lesson. His role as host of America's Funniest Home Videos further cemented this image. A genial, friendly face who laughed along with us at the innocent mishaps of everyday people. He was a master of connecting with an audience, creating an atmosphere of comfort and familiarity. This public persona, honed over decades, was a carefully crafted and deeply cherished part of his career. But those who knew him, and those who saw his stand-up comedy, knew another side of Bob Saget entirely, a hilariously raunchy, edgy comic who delighted in pushing boundaries. It was a fascinating duality, a testament to his range and his refusal to be pigeonholed. He was, in every sense, a truly versatile entertainer, capable of both the sweetest sentiment and the most outrageous humor. For 30 years, Bob Saget lived a double life. We saw the public persona, the TV dad, the raunchy comic. But behind the scenes, he was a general in a secret war, a deeply personal crusade against scleroderma, the brutal disease that took his sister Gay. Her passing so many years ago ignited a fire within him, transforming his grief into an unwavering commitment to find a cure. He became a relentless advocate, pouring his heart, his time, and his considerable influence into raising awareness and funds for the Scleroderma Research Foundation. He raised over $26 million, a staggering sum, through countless events, performances, and personal appeals. This wasn't just a celebrity cause. This was his sister's legacy, his tribute, his very personal promise. It was a hidden pressure, a constant, underlying current in his life, a profound responsibility he carried with unwavering dedication. He used his voice, his humor, and his boundless energy to give a voice to those suffering from a little-known illness, turning personal tragedy into a powerful force for good. When Bob Saget himself was suddenly taken, the question became a whisper in the halls of Hollywood. Who would carry the torch? His 30-year mission was suddenly orphaned. His final days were, tragically, quite ordinary. He had performed a stand-up show, connected with his audience, and then retired to his hotel room. The official investigation concluded that he suffered an unwitnessed fall, likely backwards, and struck his head. Unaware of the severity of the injury, he went to sleep and passed away in his sleep. It was a quiet, solitary end for a man who had brought so much laughter and warmth to the world. The answer to who would carry his torch, and the secret, was revealed not in a whispered confession, but on a brightly lit stage. At the first Scleroderma Research Foundation fundraiser after his death, the very event Saget had championed for decades, a new face appeared. It was Catherine O'Hara. Her presence wasn't about a hidden friendship. It was a public declaration. O'Hara's final secret was the revelation of this unspoken pact among comics, to show up when a void is left. By stepping onto that stage, she wasn't just honoring a peer. She was joining his fight, ensuring the last chapter of Bob Saget's story wasn't his death, but the continuation of his life's most important work. The most profound irony is one of silence. Bob Saget was a man defined by his voice, from the comforting tones of a beloved father on television to the unfiltered, explosive volume of his stand-up comedy. Yet his life ended in complete silence. From an injury he never knew was fatal, unable to make a sound or call for help. A man who spent 3 decades loudly and relentlessly fighting to give a voice to the victims of a little-known disease, his own story was ended by a quiet, unwitnessed accident. It's hard to accept when a talent like that is taken by a simple, unwitnessed accident, isn't it? It reminds us how fragile life truly is, even for those who seem larger than life. Betty White. The very name sparkles with wit, charm, and an enduring effervescence that seemed to defy the passage of time. For nearly a century, she graced our screens, a true pioneer in television, breaking barriers and stealing hearts. From her early days on Life with Elizabeth to her iconic roles as the man-crazy Sue Ann Nivens on The Mary Tyler Moore Show and the sweetly naive Rose Nealand on The Golden Girls, Betty White was a national treasure. Her quick wit, her impeccable comedic timing, and her infectious zest for life made her an instant and lasting favorite. She was the one we all believed would live forever. A vibrant, hilarious presence who seemed to only grow more charming and sharp with age. Her golden years were a triumphant parade of accolades, renewed adoration, and a public that simply couldn't get enough of her. She was a symbol of resilience, of joy, and of the enduring power of laughter. Her career was a masterclass in staying relevant, in adapting with the times while always remaining uniquely, wonderfully Betty. She was a comfort, a constant, a star who shone brighter with each passing decade, and we loved her for it. Truly. But even for a legend like Betty White, there were unspoken pressures. The veil, is finally lifted. The secret connecting Betty White to her spiritual successor in comedy, Catherine O'Hara, was never a whispered confidence between them. It was a silent, crushing pact they both made with the world. For decades, we believed they were immune, powered by a source of wit and vitality unavailable to mere mortals. They were our living antidotes to despair, their job to be relentlessly, brilliantly on. Imagine the pressure of being the nation's comedic grandmother, the one everyone expects to be eternally witty, eternally charming, eternally youthful in spirit. It's a beautiful burden, perhaps, but a burden nonetheless. The constant demand to perform, to embody that invincible spirit, to defy the natural course of life for the sake of public adoration. It must have been a quiet, profound toll. Even the most resilient spirits are, in the end, human. The truth is that this persona of immortal joy is the most difficult role of all. It's an unspoken contract, a silent agreement to be more than human, to be a source of endless light. Betty White's final days were, in many ways, emblematic of her life, full of anticipation, full of joy, and then a quiet, unexpected turn. She was just 17 days shy of her 100th birthday with a massive nationwide cinema event. Betty White, 100 years young, already ticketed and scheduled. She was actively promoting the party, her spirit as bright as ever. Then the news came. The official report reads, cerebrovascular accident, a stroke. 6 days before she passed, the electrical storm that was her life's energy had one final quiet surge. The Hollywood machine, the public, we all expected a different ending, a punchline, a knowing wink to the camera. The truth was quieter, more human. It happened not on a soundstage, but in the sanctuary of her home, ending a life that felt like it belonged to all of us. But in the end, was only hers. The heartbreaking link, now exposed, is the performance of invincibility. Betty's stroke didn't just end a life. It shattered the collective fantasy that our most beloved performers are exempt from the quiet, biological frailties of the human body. The link isn't a forgotten script. It's the shared, unspoken contract to defy mortality for our entertainment. A contract Betty was finally, tragically, forced to break. The ultimate, most poignant irony is one of timing, the very essence of comedy. Betty White, a master of the craft for nearly a century, had her own final curtain fall just 17 days before her 100th birthday. The world was ready to give her a standing ovation, not knowing she had already, quietly, taken her final bow. Please share in the comments which of her roles touched your heart the most, because as long as we remember them, they are never truly gone. Sean Connery. The name itself conjures images of suave sophistication, rugged charm, and an undeniable masculine power that defined an era. For millions, he was, and forever will be, the definitive James Bond, the first, the best, the one who set the gold standard for cinematic spies. His portrayal was electric, a perfect blend of danger, wit, and effortless cool, but Connery was so much more than Bond. He commanded the screen in films like The Untouchables, earning an Academy Award, and captivated us in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, bringing a delightful gravitas and humor to the role of Indy's father. He was a force of nature, an actor whose presence filled every frame, whose voice was instantly recognizable, and whose charisma was simply unmatched. His career spanned decades, evolving from leading man to respected elder statesman, always with that twinkle in his eye and that unmistakable Scottish brogue. He was a legend in every sense of the word, an icon of classic Hollywood who seemed to possess an almost invincible aura, a man whose strength and intelligence radiated from the screen. For years, Hollywood saw them as icons from different worlds. Connery, the rugged embodiment of classic masculinity. O'Hara, the chameleonic genius of modern comedy. The public never knew of the invisible, heartbreaking thread that bound them. The connection isn't in a lost film or a hidden script. It's in a shared, silent war. While Sean Connery was privately succumbing to the ravages of dementia, Catherine O'Hara was on a very different, very public front line of the same battle. The secret that is now exposed is O'Hara's own deeply personal crusade against this very disease, a fight fueled by watching it claim her own loved ones. She has lent her voice, her time, and her fame to charities and campaigns, fighting the exact neurological thief that stole Connery from his family, and ultimately, from us. The pressure of maintaining his public image, even as his private world began to fragment, must have been immense. His family kept his struggles largely out of the spotlight, a testament to his desire for privacy, but also a poignant reflection of the quiet, devastating nature of the illness itself. It's a cruel irony that a man celebrated for his sharp mind and quick reflexes was ultimately undone by a disease that slowly, inexorably, steals one's very essence. Sean Connery's final days were, In his wife Micheline Roquebrun's words, a long quiet fade. Officially, the records state pneumonia and heart failure following a long illness. But the story the records don't tell is the devastating battle with dementia that had, in her words, taken his life long before he passed. He was no longer himself. It was a profound loss, not just of a physical life, but of the vibrant mind that had captivated us for so long. The link isn't a conspiracy, it's a shared tragedy, fought from opposite sides of the veil, one as a victim, the other as a champion for the victims. The ultimate cruel irony is this. Sean Connery, the man who embodied the sharpest mind in cinema, the spy who could decipher any code and outwit any villain, was ultimately defeated by an enemy within his own mind he could not escape. And the secret link to this tragedy is Catherine O'Hara, an artist whose entire genius is built upon the intricate, brilliant, and rapid-fire workings of a vibrant mind, the very faculty that Connery so tragically lost. One legend was defined by the mind he had. The other is now defined by her fight for the minds we are all at risk of losing. It truly makes you appreciate the clarity of thought, doesn't it? The ability to simply be present, to remember, to connect. It's a gift we often take for granted. And so, we come to the end of our reflection. The passing of Catherine O'Hara, the final note in a symphony of comedic brilliance, has resonated deeply, forcing us to look back, to connect the dots, and to understand the profound, often hidden, stories behind the smiles we loved so much. These aren't just celebrity deaths. For so many of us, this is the end of an era. These stars were mainstays in our living rooms for decades. The TV dad, the ultimate movie star, the ever-present grandmother figure, the friend we grew up with. Their departures remind us that even the most luminous stars are, in the end, human, subject to the same frailties, the same unspoken burdens, the same quiet battles that define all our lives. The secrets they carried, the pressures they faced, the profound, often lonely cost of their genius, these are the threads that weave through all their stories. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? To realize that the laughter and escapism they provided often came at such a personal cost. It teaches us perhaps to look beyond the surface, to appreciate the humanity behind the artistry, and to remember that even our heroes are battling their own quiet wars. Take care of yourselves, and hold your loved ones close. Memory is the only thing that truly lasts forever.